Hey everyone, it is Vickie Magic here with the podcast today, Wake Up to What Matters. And today I have a beautiful friend of mine with me, Jean Sheehan. Welcome, Jean.
Oh, thank you, Vickie. It's beautiful to be here.
Absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. So, Jean, what I'd like to invite you to do first of all is just share with our listeners a little bit about what you do and a little bit about why you do what you do.
Awesome. What do I do? I love that question because my answer is kind of crazy and people give a reaction of, what? So I'm known as the walking, talking MRI. Why? Because I can see inside the body. I'm not clairvoyant. I'm not psychic. I'm really grounded, but I have this natural gift of seeing inside the body. And I teach what your body says under medical intuition. All of it is about us being ourselves, being able to shine our brilliance, create our heart's desires, but we're using the one thing that we own, which is our body. So that's what I do. Now, why do I do it? I've always been fascinated by health as wealth. And my mum died on Christmas Day when I was 16. And I couldn't understand why the medical staff couldn't save her, rescue her, because I could see inside the body, why couldn't they? And so I made it like a pledge of my duty to go, you know what? It's about teaching other people there's another way. And so from that, I'm very passionate about making sure people really understand who they are able to overcome those crazy struggles called emotions and have easy life tools using their body to live their best life. So I'm very passionate. Have I had to learn it myself? Of course. And also just seeing people blossom. Oh my gosh, I feel so rich when I see them come in from lost through to being the genius. It just absolutely uplifts me so much.
Awesome. So I'd really like to just kind of take that a tiny little bit further, because I know, but our listeners don't know, that you've actually been accredited to teach this in, all over the world. Tell us a little bit more about that accreditation and what that means.
Yeah. So it wasn't my intention to teach it. It was just my intention to share it. And then nursing girlfriends, because I'm actually a registered nurse, would say, oh, we want to learn. So I would teach it. But then naturopaths, doctors, physios and other professionals would say, well, we need CPE points or CPD points. Can you accredit it? So after a long journey of using my brain, to understand what the accreditation was, I certified it first, then accredited it so that certain professions can get specific points because they've got to keep upskilling teachers, doctors, nurses, etc. And so some people come along to have a great time, some come to find out about their body, but most people want to integrate it as a profession or into their profession. So that accreditation is like, I always say, look, it's the government ruling. I follow the government rules, but oh my gosh, we have fun behind the scenes as well. Just so that, again, it's still people living their best life under the accreditation. And yes, it's now recognized in 26 countries, which is super delicious. So anyone that becomes a practitioner can travel the world or do it from any of those countries as well, which is great as well.
Fantastic. And just a tiny little bit more about your, obviously, credentials. Tell us a little bit about all the books that you've written as well.
All the books.
A million books.
Well, I plan on 13 books. I've only written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of those have gone Amazon bestseller. So I always had a dream to write a book, and after self-sabotaging about 15 times, I ran away, wrote a book in 2.5 days or 30 hours, and then that was the Jean Sheehan story. I didn't know what to call it. It's about me. And I went, what do I call it? Oh yeah, the Jean Sheehan story. And then I decided, people kept asking me about Millennium Children personality, which I've learned from looking inside the body. So I wrote these 2 books in 5 days, Millennium Children and Empowering Millennium Children. So it's actually one book, but I wouldn't read a book that thick. Then I decided to write my own colouring in book, which is a healing book. And then I purposely, and Vickie, you'll relate to this, I purposely did something absolutely gross. Vickie will relate in regards to health, I purposely put on 20 kilos, eating crappy food to create disease and then to use medical intuition to get healthy again. It was actually 21 kilos. I lost the weight, applied medical intuition to say, look, there is another way. When people are diagnosed with pyrroles or adrenal fatigue or any of those sort of things, there's another way. So that's the Bite Me book.
Awesome.
So yeah, they're my books. So
yeah,
I like to
good.
do it in 3 days type thing.
Yeah, awesome. And that's credit to you. Not many people could do that, so well done. So I really want to get a little bit inside your head, because obviously this whole podcast is what I like to kind of call inspiration for people, to inspire them as to things that they can do towards more happiness, towards more success, less stress, less overwhelm. So have you ever been overwhelmed?
Let's see now. Of course I have, of course. And in that overwhelm, yes, I applied my own medical intuition techniques, but when I was in that overwhelm, it swamped my life. At age 26, I was actually suicidal. And as a nurse, I had the pills in my hand, the glass of water in my hand. I knew what pills to take, how to do it quickly, how to finish everything off. Life was just way too much, absolutely way too much. And so I was about to pop the pills in my mouth when I got like a vision of my son, my oldest son, who was about 2 or 3 years old back then. But yeah, overwhelmed. It overtook my life. Back then, it wasn't called anxiety or anything like that. It was just like, you're just having a bit of a downtime. But yeah, it just felt like I was drowning, absolutely drowning. And I didn't want to be here. I did not want to be here at all.
Wow. So I'd love to hear, if you're open to share, how that kind of came about and how you got out of it.
Yeah, sure. A lot of it was actually in my mind. So I'd been studying the physical body as a nurse. I knew the physical body. I was nursing. I went into pathology. That's behind the scenes in the laboratory. I also went into autopsies. I knew the anatomy, physiology, the chemical side so well. I have a total woo-woo mind and a total ferocious science mind. But I didn't know about mental health. And back then, again, mental health wasn't mental health. You didn't talk about depression or suicide. And I just had this stuck record, now it'd be called a stuck podcast in my head going over and over, you're not worth anything. Nobody loves you. If you drop dead, nobody would care. Nobody would come to your funeral. It just would go. Nobody knew. I looked like this successful, confident nurse with a family and coping. And then the tip of it was, like my upbringing too, was I was told that you're fat, you're ugly, you were never wanted. As a girl, I'm actually Greek Arabic, and girls aren't sort of wanted in that culture. And so there was that as well. But looking at my son, I used to have to resuscitate him all the time. He had lots of medical surgical things for the first 3 years, and I was on survival mode as a nurse. Didn't look at emotions at all, just kept on smoking my emotions until one day I went, I can't do this. I cannot do it. And that's when I went, I'm just going to kill myself. I'm going to end it. And then my husband, coincidentally, I don't believe in coincidence. I believe in the universe always provides. He came home, he was in the army at the time. He came home with this cassette tape thing. Now, most people don't know what cassettes are anymore, but a cassette thing that he had to do at work. And it was a self-development thing, and he wasn't into it. And so I listened to it instead, because I couldn't sleep with the depression. And as I was listening, there was this thing called reticular activating system. I don't remember the program. I just remember the guy was American and his name was Lou, and that's all they kept saying was Lou. And this Raz, it was about where I focused. And I thought, what? And once I learned about the Raz, it was like the icing on the cake of health. So I knew the spiritual, I knew the body, but I had the missing link of mind. And so with the focus, I kept journaling. Just, what's my focus? Look for the hearts and everything. Look for the hearts and everything. Look for the love and everything. And so journaling, I started to eat better. I was eating really bad food, sugar, wheat, dairy, things that don't make me feel good. And I cleaned up my food. I cleaned up my mind. I started walking, started drinking water, like just the basic things to keep healthy. But that race, oh my gosh, I still today love it. Look for the hearts, see the best in everything. So that's how I got myself out. I did book an appointment to a psychologist and a psychiatrist. Well, when the psychiatrist, and this is nothing against them, just for me, I didn't want to go on pills, and the psychologist didn't really give me the strategies. So I created the strategies myself, and one was journaling, affirmations, music, water, walking, etc. They were the main life tools that I did that really got me out of it.
Awesome. And how long do you think that took?
For the full process or the initial?
For you to start to feel better?
Probably 3 months to begin with.
Yeah.
Like it's not an instant thing. Like within the first week, I felt better because I stopped having sugar. But it was like 3 months to make it a lifestyle. It wasn't just about fixing, it was a lifestyle change. So I had to stop going to certain places, eating certain foods, even connecting with certain people. The people that I was connecting with were really negative as well. So my lifestyle really just slowly integrated to something else. And then from that 3 months, it was like I became a new me. And so, yeah, it's just me. Do I still do all those things? All of them. I still journal. I still drink water. I still exercise. I still stay away from sugar. So, yeah. And I keep with like-minded people like yourself, which just, yeah, it makes me feel great in the heart and the mind.
Yeah. And so if you had a client or a friend that sort of came to you and said, you know, I hear all of this and I really want to change, and but I just keep going back to the anxiety and to the struggle and to the depression, and I feel like it's bigger than me. What kind of words of wisdom would you give those people?
And I can relate. It's almost when you're in it, it's massive. It's like a huge monster, and we feel like a little tiny ant.
Yeah.
So it's not so much words that I would tell them to do, but I like them to question. And I'll get them to say things like, and especially with clients, friends, I tend to stay on friends. I don't tend to mix work and my work, because I like to be there as a friend support. But I'll say, what if you change the question? So I had a client recently who was very down and anxious and overwhelmed, couldn't leave the house because she'd put on a lot of weight. And I said, what question do you keep asking? And she said, why do I stay fat? And I said, what if you change the question? What do you mean? Well, instead of saying, why do I stay fat? Because the brain's going to give an answer and say, because you're a fat pig. It's just going to say some random...
Because you eat too much.
Yeah, you know, it's just a random answer. Why don't you change the question? And I said, why don't you change the question to, how can I feel healthy? How can I feel happy? What would make me feel good today? So I would very much say, and I do say to clients, change the question. And the other thing I say is, what about tweaking the routine? And it's the most craziest routine. When we get in the shower, our routine might be lather up the sponge or face wash or whatever, and we start on the left-hand side from the hand up the arm, cross the chest, down the arm, and I say then go the opposite. Start the opposite side, feel how uncomfortable it is to change, but how good it feels in that change. So they're the two things I just say, look, just give it a go, see what happens.
Yeah, because variety, obviously, they say is the spice of life, don't they?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. So what's next for you? So you've written 5 books. You've got 8 to go.
8 to go.
8 to go. And so can you give us a little kind of look in on what 1 or 2 of them, or at least the next couple, might be?
So I want to challenge myself since having the depression. Part of that was I felt like I couldn't achieve anything, and etc. So if I've written like 2 books in 5 days, could I write 5 books in 5 days, 1 a day? And just so that you know, I don't sleep a lot. I only sleep 3 to 4 hours. So that's my big thing that I'd like to do. And then the other thing I'd like to do is to service more people, especially having forced to go online. I just think, what else can I do to service people? For me, it's really important about servicing people. So I'm just investigating an app where they can actually, just like my medical intuitive cards, instead of having cards, it's an app so that they click on to get inspiration. They can program it of when they wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, bang, there's the inspiration for them. So for me, it's always about servicing. Even the books, it's like you can go back as a repertoire. Remember, there's a life skill or something fun to do. It's got to be something that just really fulfills somebody's heart.
Yeah, so that was actually, and you've kind of almost answered my next question, but I am going to ask it anyway, is what's the kind of difference that you want to make for the world, or what's the offering that you give to the world? What's the, the Jean Sheehan legacy that you want to leave, for example?
Probably to know that, and I've written in all my books, whether it's just a 5 or 13, and it's just so funky. We are already perfect, just in different stages of remembering. And so people say, but I'm not perfect because I haven't got X color hair or size of weight or whatever. That's not perfect. Perfect is that we are so lovable, loving and loved, and that everything is always working out. My favorite affirmation is it always works out. And that's my legacy, is just to drop those seeds in for people, not to tell them, but they can just take that seed and germinate within themselves and go, if we're already perfect and I'm remembering, okay, I'm open to go out into the world and play in the world, not be frightened of it. And that if everything always works out, well, then I'm going to go out. I'm going to go out and give it a go. That's my legacy. And for them to see everything with hearts, everything with love.
Yep. So that's leading then to my last question, which is all about the hearts, all about the heart glasses, the heart. So and I've seen obviously through a lot of your Facebook and postings and that hearts is definitely your thing. Share with us a little bit about the hearts, the why behind it, and what you hope to achieve through the hearts, the love.
Yeah. So now I'm going to go back to nursing.
Yes.
The organ of the heart is that central point. It's like a pump that fuels everything on our circulation, plus lymphatic, etc. So it's like that's that thing that keeps us alive. Plus, there's a heartbeat in music, in traffic, in people stopping, or when you lie still, you can hear your heartbeat. You put your hand on your belly button, you can get in touch with the heartbeat. The heartbeat of the world is everywhere, and that we all get succinct metaphysically and quantum physics to our heartbeat. And so that's why I go to hearts. Plus, for me, it's that concept of love, that we were born lovable, we will die lovable. I've nursed dying patients as well. And in between, it's a journey of remembering that we're lovable, loving and loved. And so that's why I keep it to the heart. On a medical intuitive level, heart is about love of self, love of others, forgiveness, and also awareness. And when we're really aware of our potential, that anything is possible, that's when we have the best life. When we're in our head, oh my gosh, the monkey mind, that little monkey in the mind that just goes, there's no monkey in the heart. That's why I love the heart.
I love that. And so somebody that was listening, and I know that I told you that the last question was the last question, but this is a question about that question. So if there was somebody that was listening that's sort of like, oh, I would love to, love myself more. I would love to find a way, but I just don't. how would you kind of guide someone into that step towards self-love? Because it's not just a given. I know that we're born with it. Absolutely. I get that. And I 100% agree with you. But, you know, a lot of the clients that I deal with as well, and I know that you do too, they need a starting point. And so if you were to guide us to a starting point, what would you say?
That lover's self concept is kind of massive, but if we broke it down, lover's self isn't go and have a massage or get your hair done. They're all nice. They're all really nice, but it lasts only the time you're having the hair done.
Superficial.
So, yeah. That lover's self for me is almost like setting a boundary, not a limit, but it's like a boundary where almost bringing yourself back in and going, what do I like? What don't I like? What am I comfortable with? So again, it's asking those questions. And when we set that boundary of this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and then we communicate it to friends, children, partners, family, clients, whoever it is, work colleagues, that's a lover's self concept. So right down to, and I remember I was feeding my son, I had to slip down the nasogastric tube to feed him while he was in hospital. And I was watching the Oprah show when Dr. Phil wasn't big. It was this Dr. Phil guy on the show. And I'm putting the nasogastric tube down the nose and he says, we teach people how to treat us. Well, I ripped the tube out of my son's nose because I went, what? We teach people how to treat us? Oh my gosh. And so that's when I went, all right, if that's the case, I'm going to build these boundaries. So the boundary is things like, teaching my children who are now adults, this is what my standard is. This is what makes me feel comfortable. You tell me as well. Teaching clients, I say to clients, don't text me. I won't answer. I'll tell you right now, don't text me. You can Facebook message me, you can email me, you can call me, but don't text me. So that boundary setting of saying what I like, what I don't like, and here it is, that's really quite empowering. That settles anxiety, it settles overwhelm. It's like, yeah, I've got this great energy and space where I feel like, yeah, I design my destiny. So that would be my biggest tip to start with lover self, and practice.
Yeah, baby steps.
Yes.
I love that. So thank you so much for all of your words of wisdom today. Is there anything else that you'd really like to share that you haven't shared yet that you just want to leave with? Oh, and I just want to say something.
I think it's just reiterate, everything really does work out. And I know that sounds really great. If people look at me now and traveling the world and successful business buyer, and it's all good for you, Jean. However, my lifestyle has been very colourful, from growing up in Kuwait, not wanted as a child, homeless at the age of 16, a few other, things have happened along the way, big things. But I kept that thing of, it always works out. And as soon as I kept saying it to myself, especially when I was homeless at 16, it really does work out. And everyone I've ever taught it to for the 25 years I've been doing this always say, Jean, you're right. It always does work out. And it's just have that little seed behind, just keep saying it. Everything always works out. Everything always works out. And it does. That's probably the biggest thing I would say.
I love that. Awesome. Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for your time today. Thank you for your information, your words of wisdom, and thank you for just being my amazing friend.
Oh, thank you, dear. So much. I just love it. Love it and love you.
Love you lots. Thanks, Jean.